This is Covering the Spread, part of the FanDuel Podcast Network.
One of the more fun aspects of having a full week to dissect a single game is we can view things from different perspectives and take a what-if kind of approach and play out different scenarios in our head and outline what bets may stand out in those various scenarios. That just so happens to be exactly what you do when you're betting a same-game parlay at FanDuel Sportsbook, because you want to ask yourself, what assumption am I making and what bets would stand out if this assumption does wind up being true? You want to find bets that play well together, correlate well, and if one leg hits, you want the others to hit as well. So it's a pretty fun setup, and today we're going to go through 3 different assumptions I think I can make around this game and identify what same-game parlays make a lot of sense when I make that assumption around a single event or a single thing happening for this game. So we're going to go through 3 different same-game parlays I like at FanDuel Sportsbook for Chiefs versus Eagles right now. Welcome on into Covering the Spread, a FanDuel Research podcast. My name is JimSannes. I am a managing editor for FanDuel Research, here to dive into my 3 favorite same-game parlays for Super Bowl 59 between the Eagles and the Chiefs, letting you know my thoughts on this game at FanDuel Sportsbook. We'll dive into the assumptions and the parlays that stem from them in just 1 second, but first, a reminder to make sure you are subscribed to Covering the Spread wherever you get your podcasts. 5 total shows for this week, already a couple up, one of those being my favorite traditional market bets for this game. That went up back on Monday. You can check out my thoughts on a money line, talk to team total, talk through some other stuff that I liked for this game there. Yesterday, Austin Swaim joined me breaking down key matchups for this game between the Chiefs and the Eagles and what bets stem from those matchups he is monitoring for this game. Tomorrow is our big show. Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern on the YouTube page, Best Player Prop Bets with Dr. Ed Fang and Megan Payton. Both of them will join me again, 2 p.m. Eastern for that show. And then Andy Nader will join me at 10 a.m. Eastern on Friday, talking about some halftime, national anthem, other novelty props, and player props Andy likes as well. So again, couple more shows coming, couple posted. Get those on the Covering the Spread podcast feed wherever you get your podcasts. But also check out the FanDuel Football Betting YouTube page to get all those shows. Again, 2 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, 10 a.m. Friday for the live streams. Other ones already posted. And again, make sure you subscribe there. Turn on notifications to get notified as we go live each day throughout this week. The FanDuel Kick of Destiny is back, and this time it's every Manning for himself. This Super Bowl, 2 legends will take the field in a sudden death field goal showdown. Peyton versus Eli, live from New Orleans. 1 click to claim ultimate family bragging rights. Who will rise to the moment? Pick your winner now in the FanDuel app, and if you back the right brother, you'll earn a share of $10 million in bonus bets. It's the FanDuel Kick of Destiny 3. Make your free pick, and don't forget to tune in to watch the showdown live during the Super Bowl 59 pregame show on Fox at 3 p.m. Eastern. May the best Manning win. FanDuel official partner of Super Bowl 59. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in DC. No purchase necessary. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Or visit FanDuel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. Visit MD Gambling Help Oregon, Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Let's take a look now at the betting odds of FanDuel Sportsbook here for the Chiefs and the Eagles. Still pretty steady, a bit of movement towards the Eagles since we last talked on Tuesday. Eagles money line now plus 102 versus it was plus 106 earlier on this week. So some enthusiasm towards the Eagles. Also, their team total is inched up. Talked about that on the Monday show as well. So does seem as though people slowly buying into Philadelphia as we get deeper into the week. As mentioned, want to go through 3 different assumptions and SGPs that stem from those for this game. The reason to go with those assumptions, again, you want to tell yourself a story with an SGP and kind of make an assumption. Okay, I assume that this one bet hits. What other bets play well with that bet? What other events are more likely if this assumption winds up being true? And how can I build that into a same game parlay around this game? The first assumption I want to make is that my betting model is correct. We'll talk about some ways it could be wrong later on too. But for the first one, let's assume that this model is correct. Let's assume that means the Eagles are undervalued. So I've got the Eagles here by 0.55 points this game, which says there is value in the Eagles money line, even at plus 102. I do have my concerns. We'll find other ways to get around this later on. But what if the model is correct? We'd start things off with the Eagles money line at plus 102. And again, the reason the model is showing that the Eagles are undervalued is because it does like their offense more than what the market is saying, which is part of why I went with the team total earlier on this week. It was 23.5. It's inched up to 24.5, and that's across a key number. So pretty significant move there. And that's why we're not going to include that as a leg in our 3-leg same game parlay. In addition to the Eagles money line, if we're going to assume the Eagles win this game, a couple of bets I think would correlate well towards that will revolve around the two key stars in Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts. Let's begin with Saquon Barkley taking his rushing yardage over. 109.5 yards is minus 110 at FanDuel Sportsbook. This is a number Saquon has gone over in 11 out of 19 games so far this year, which is a 58% rate. If we look at the games that they have won, with Jalen Hurts being fully good to go during those games, Saquon has gone over 109.5 60% of the time. And again, with putting the money line in there, we're making the assumption the Eagles win this game, which is why we can look at that stat specifically and say, okay, Eagles win, Saquon Barkley, roughly based on the history this year, a 60% chance to go over 109.5 rushing yards in this game. And a couple of those, he was at 108, 109, so barely under that number as well. That rate could look even better had a couple of things swung his way. If the Eagles have a lead, they're going to ride Barkley late in this game, and it's probably going to be pretty efficient in doing so too, based on what they've done so far this year. So we'll put on the Saquon Barkley over 109.5 rushing yards at FanDuel Sportsbook. The final leg of this 3-leg same game parlay will be around Jalen Hurts. If the Eagles are going to win, they got to score points. And frankly, I have more faith in them doing so via Hurts than I do via Saquon Barkley at current odds. Barkley at minus 190, Hurts at minus 115 to score at FanDuel Sportsbook. He has scored in 12 out of 17 full games this year. That is a 71% rate. And again, we're getting this at minus 115. Now, not all those games are against a team as good as the Chiefs, but it's a tush push. And if you look at him in his playoff career, where he's faced a lot of very good teams, including the Chiefs, Hurts has scored a touchdown in 5 out of 7 games, which is a 71% rate, actually better than his number across the entirety of this year. If you look at the entire tush push era from 2022 on, it's a 66% rate for Jalen Hurts. And again, we're assuming the Eagles win, which means we assume that they score some points. They're probably going to do so via Jalen Hurts. And he, to me, is the better value to score than Saquon Barkley, despite the fact we like the Saquon Barkley rushing prop in this game. So if you put together those 3 legs, Eagles money line, Hurts to score, and Saquon Barkley rushing yardage over, that's plus 330 at FanDuel Sportsbook. That gets you more safety in betting against Mahomes, the playoff boogeyman, and allows you to get more reward for the risk you are taking on. I think that's a pretty fun way if we assume my model is correct and the Eagles are undervalued in this game. So to me, rather than betting the Eagles money line straight up at plus 102, I'd want to lump in other things that play well there to give me more upside for the risk I'm taking in betting against playoff Pat Mahomes, and this allows me to do so. So again, that 3-leg same game parlay is the Saquon Barkley rushing yardage over 109.5, Eagles money line sitting at plus 102, and taking Jalen Hurts to score minus 115. That 3-leg same game parlay grades out to be at a plus 330 at FanDuel Sportsbook. The second assumption that I want to make is a very different assumption. So you'll notice these are very different bets, and they cannot cash together because we're going to talk about the Chiefs here. The second assumption I want to make is, what if the Chiefs are as good as they played in a small sample with Hollywood Brown? If you look at the 4 games with Hollywood Brown being active this year, Patrick Mahomes has averaged 0.37 passing net expected points per dropback. That is Number Fire's expected points model. And if you put that over the full year, Mahomes would have ranked second in the NFL behind just Lamar Jackson. If you look at the full season of data, not just that 4-game sample, Mahomes ranked ninth. Obviously, that full sample is not what I have in my model because it includes the time before the DeAndre Hopkins trade when his top receivers were Justin Watson and Juju Smith-Schuster. That ain't great. And Mahomes was not as good in that span. Looks a lot better when you look at him since the Hopkins trade where he's had non-street free agent pass catchers out there on the field. But he looks even better if I were to look at this 4-game sample. Now, I can't do that because a 4-game sample is not enough data to look on. There are things like regression and stuff like that. So I can't put that in my model, which is why I've got the Eagles favored by 0.55 points. But there is a chance that they are actually that good because that 4-game sample includes 2 playoff games. They face the Texans twice, the Steelers once, and the Bills once. Those are all pretty decent defenses. Now, not quite as good as the Eagles, who have been the best defense in football basically from the midpoint of the season on, but it's been against good defenses. There is a chance that that is actually the proper sample, the proper projection to have for the efficiency of this Chiefs offense. If I make that their projected efficiency, I had the Chiefs favored by 2.7 points and the total at 52.8. So if I assume that the Chiefs are as good as they've been since the Hollywood Brown debut, we can go with a 4-leg same game parlay here with laying the 1.5 with the Chiefs, taking the over 48.5 because that's where the model has things as the baseline assumption here. The Chiefs undervalued in the betting markets and undervalued for the total in this game. Let's switch that to be the Chiefs money line at -120 here. Other legs I like, if we make this assumption, is going to be around efficiency for Mahomes. I think the passing attempts will be there for Mahomes. And if they play as well as they have, the yardage should be there too. So we'll take Mahomes over 250.5 passing yards in this game. And he's hit at a pretty decent clip this year. The attempts number has been better for him from a rate perspective, 36.5. But again, we're assuming efficiency, assuming he'll be as good as he has been with Hollywood Brown thus far. And efficiency says go yardage instead of attempts here. The final leg of this 4-leg same game parlay be revolve around Xavier Worthy. Now that may feel weird because it's an assumption based on how Hollywood Brown has played, but Worthy's role since Hollywood Brown joined the team has been phenomenal, especially in the red zone. Across 4 games with Hollywood Brown being in town, Worthy actually has a massive red zone share, 11 total red zone targets in 4 games, along with 4 red zone rush attempts. That's allowed him to score a touchdown in 3 out of those 4 games. And frankly, overall this year, Worthy has scored in 9 out of 18 games, 6 out of 12 since the DeAndre Hopkins trades. He's been scoring at a clip better than +150 the entire year. It's been even better since Hollywood Brown came to town, especially in the red zone. 26% overall target share for Worthy in this span. So that leads to a 4-leg same game parlay of the over 48.5, the Chiefs money line, Mahomes over 250.5 passing yards, and Xavier Worthy anytime touchdown. That is +670 at FanDuel Sportsbook. Again, all stemming from the one assumption that the Chiefs play as well as they have since the Hollywood Brown trade. I don't think that's super far-fetched. Again, it's not my baseline assumption because I do have some regression baked in for this Chiefs offense, but also, again, it's playoff Patrick Mahomes. And if I'm going to take the risk around making this, I think, kind of bold assumption that they can play as well as they have, because again, it's second best efficiency in football in that time. That's a pretty big risk. I want a big payoff for that. To me, +670, not a bad number that does fit in that criteria for me. So again, over 48.5, Chiefs money line, Mahomes over 250.5 passing yards, Xavier Worthy touchdown, +670, those same game parlay odds at FanDuel Sportsbook as our second SGP of this game. Our third SGP will not revolve around picking a team to win because it doesn't always have to do that. You can instead look around a player's role. Like you think, okay, with this player being active, I think this player's role scales back, and you can kind of do some bets based on that. The biggest role-based assumption I think I can make in this game is that Kareem Hunt continues to run ahead of Isaiah Pacheco. Pacheco had a pretty long layoff because he sat at week 18, had the bye week in the divisional round, and when they came back off that layoff, Pacheco still didn't seem fully right off his broken leg. He's had 2 more weeks to get healthy, so maybe we see a different version of Pacheco in the Super Bowl than we've seen so far during the playoffs, but frankly, Kareem Hunt has played pretty well. So I don't mind making the assumption that Hunt continues to play that role. And if he does, I think he's a bit undervalued, whereas Pacheco could be overvalued here. So we're going to go to the 3-leg same-game parlay if we assume Kareem Hunt maintains that impressive role. That is Kareem Hunt over 43.5 rushing yards, Isaiah Pacheco under 21.5 rushing yards, and a touchdown out of Kareem Hunt, which is currently plus 145 at FanDuel Sportsbook. The reason I want to go with those 3 legs, beginning with Hunt, is that he had 17 carries in the conference championship and 8 the time before that. They kind of realized he was running the ball very well, and they rode him over Pacheco in those games. He finished with 44 and 64 yards in those 2 games, so barely clearing in one, but then going well over on 17 carries in the other one. Pacheco had just 5 carries and under 20 yards in both of those games. So that's why I want to go with the yardage over for Hunt and under for Pacheco. But also the red zone role for Hunt has been very good. It's not like amazing for a running back, but if you look at the game since Pacheco returned, so a larger sample than just the playoffs, it's a 7-game sample, and Hunt has scored in 4 of those games. He has scored in both playoff games as well. So the role that Hunt has had has been where he's been the overall lead back, but also specifically when they get towards the goal line, they have ridden him as opposed to Pacheco, P. Ryan, Carson Steele. So the red zone role is good for Hunt if we assume he keeps this role. He's been decently efficient. I would say surprisingly so. Got some injuries to the Eagles linebacking core. No Nakobe Dean, Zach Bond, probably going to play, but did injure his groin during practice last week. And Pacheco, again, the role just has not been there. The explosion has not been there. And I'm not sure if we'll see a different version of him in this game. So the 3-leg same-game parlay of the Hunt rushing over, the Pacheco rushing under, and Hunt to score, currently plus 604 at FanDuel Sportsbook. Again, all based on the single assumption that Kareem Hunt maintains his role above Pacheco for this game. I do think that one is pretty fun as well. So again, Hunt over 43.5, Pacheco under 21.5, Hunt to score plus 604 at FanDuel Sportsbook. So I think overall, 3 pretty fun bets that revolve around single assumptions and get us a better reward for the risk we are taking on in making those assumptions for this game. And overall, I think those are 3 pretty fun SGPs for this one. That is all that we have here for today on Covering the Spread. As mentioned, back with you once again tomorrow, though, for our big show of the week. Megan Payton joining us along with Dr. Ed Feng, breaking down their top player props for Chiefs versus Eagles. To watch that show live over on the YouTube page, subscribe there, turn on notifications, and leave us a thumbs up. We appreciate those of you as always. 2 p.m. for that show. 10 a.m. on Friday for the player prop show with Annie Nader and talk novelty props there too. And of course, our NFL DFS show will stream live 10 a.m. Eastern on the YouTube page tomorrow. Check out Covering the Spread for all the audio versions of these as well. If you got any questions for me, I'm on both X and Blue Sky at JimSannes. You can find FanDuel Research on X at FanDuel Research. Big thank you to our YouTube producer, Justin Lane, for his work on the video side of things. Thank you, Justin, as always. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. Good luck to you with your bets in Super Bowl 59. Talking to you again tomorrow for our full player prop breakdown of this game. This has been Covering the Spread, a FanDuel Research podcast.